Good evening, everyone. I would like to call this meeting to order of the Village Board of Trustees. It is February 4th, 2013. This evening, as we begin our meeting, I'm very pleased to welcome Troop 32 from the First Presbyterian Church of the Village of Arlington Heights. We have John McHugh, George Meese, Michael Swingenbeck, Tom Spees, and Cole Strubble. These gentlemen are accompanied by their leaders, Mark Spees and Chris Strubby, something like that. Gentlemen, you may begin.
Will the audience please rise? Color guard attention. Color guard forward march. Halt. Post the colors. Hand over heart. Will you please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
2. Return to ranks. About face. Forward march. Halt. You may be seated, and color guard dismissed.
Let's thank these gentlemen. I tell you, you're one of the largest, tallest Boy Scout we've had for a while. Thank you. I hope for your mom's sake, she doesn't have to keep buying more longer pants. So congratulations. Thank you, gentlemen. If the clerk would please call the roll.
Trustee Farwell.
Here.
Trustee Glasgow.
Here.
Trustee Hayes.
Here.
Trustee Rosenberg.
Here.
Trustee Scaletta.
Here.
Trustee Sidor.
Here.
Trustee Blackwood. Here. Trustee Breyer.
Here.
President Mulder.
Here. We have a quorum, so we move on to item 4, approval of minutes. We have 3 sets of minutes this evening. First, the minutes of our January 14th, 2013. That's an incorrect year there. Minutes of our meeting. I would ask, it says 2014 on mine. I don't know about anybody else's.
Oh.
That's the future. Okay. Our minutes of our committee of the whole of January 14th. Is there a motion for approval?
So moved. Second.
Motion by Trustee Hayes, seconded by Trustee Rosenberg. Any comments? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Motion carries. I think Trustee Glasgow, you want to pass?
You may have that. I was going to, yes.
Okay. Next, we have Committee of the Whole minutes of January 22nd, 2013. Any comments, corrections, deletions, or additions?
Move approval. Second.
Motion by Trustee Farwell, seconded by Trustee Scaletta.
Pass.
Note the pass for Trustee Blackwood. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Motion carries. Haste makes waste. And lastly, for minutes, we have the regular Board of Trustees meeting held that same evening, January 22nd. Again, comments, corrections, deletions, or additions.
Move approval. Second.
Motion by Trustee Scaletta, seconded by Trustee Hayes. No comments. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Motion carries. We now move to item 5, approval of minutes, of accounts payable dated January 30th, 2013. I'd ask if there is a motion for approval.
Yes, Madam President, I would move approval of the payables in the amount of $1,590,193.36.
Second.
Motion by Trustee Hayes, seconded by Trustee Farwell. Are there any questions in regards to this? Roll call.
Trustee Hayes.
Yes.
Trustee Farwell.
Yes.
Trustee Sidor.
Yes.
Trustee Blackwood.
Yes.
Trustee Breyer.
Yes.
Trustee Glasgow.
Yes.
Trustee Rosenberg.
Yes.
Trustee Scaletta.
Yes.
President Mulder.
Yes. I know that we have blue cards at the back of the room. If anyone wishes to address the village board on any item on the agenda or under citizens to be heard, we ask you to complete those cards and bring them up to the clerk. We have no items under item 6, no public hearings this evening, and so far, no citizens to be heard on a subject other than those on the items on the agenda. Seeing none, we'll move on to old business, where we have a report of our committee of the whole meeting, which was held this evening, just prior to this meeting, February 4th, 2013, where we had 2 motions. I'd call on Trustee Scaletta.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I would move, as I did earlier this evening, to recommend that the Village Board of Trustees recommend to the Liquor Commissioner the issuance of a Class E liquor license to Tower Restaurant Incorporated, doing business as Tower Restaurant, located at 161 West Wing Street.
Second.
Motion by Trustee Scaletta, seconded by Trustee Sidor. Any other comments? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Motion carries. Thank you and best of luck. I know the restaurant's terrific, the food is great. You'll now have a liquor license to serve your guests. Thank you. Next motion, also coming from this evening's meeting, Trustee Scaletta.
Thank you. I would move, as I did earlier this evening, to concur in the mayor's appointment of Tom Spicer to the Youth Commission, term ending April 30th, 2016.
Second.
Motion by Trustee Scaletta, seconded by Trustee Hayes, Farwell. He sits where I'm looking at you. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Motion carries. Mr. Tom Spicer, if you could please come up to the microphone. This young man happens to be just beyond youth himself, and he is the teen director at the Arlington Heights Memorial Library. And we're very pleased this evening, after being interviewed by the Village Board of Trustees, to make this appointment to be a member of the Youth Commission. So I'd like to please administer your oath. Tom, if you'd please raise your right hand and repeat the following phrases. Say aye and clearly state your name.
I, Tom Spicer,
Having been appointed to the office
having been appointed to the office
of Youth Commission
of Youth Commission
in the Village of Arlington Heights,
in the Village of Arlington Heights,
in the County of Cook,
in the County of Cook,
do solemnly swear and affirm
do solemnly swear and affirm
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of Illinois,
and the Constitution of the State of Illinois,
and that I will faithfully discharge the duties
and I will faithfully discharge the duties
of this office
of this office
according to the best of my ability.
according to the best of my ability.
Your ability is never in any doubt. Congratulations, and if you'd please come forward. Tom, we require you to sign your oath, which you just gave in this public forum, and then take this over, sign it in the presence of the clerk. And on behalf of the trustees here this evening, as well as myself, you are now an extension of this elected body called the Village Board, serving on a village commission, the Youth Commission. We hope you wear it with pride.
Thanks a lot for the opportunity.
Congratulations. Thank you. Say something about what you're going to do with.
Sure.
Okay.
So, being appointed to the Youth Commission, I'm really looking forward to kind of just working with the teens to see what they want to do. And I feel like teens today, from my work being a teen librarian the last 6 years, is they want to be empowered. They want to show that they can make a difference. So that sounds very vague, but there are concrete details in there, including the library is already working with the Youth Commission in partnership to put on a first ever teen job fair, where teens could try and find a job for them right now in high school, like a part-time job. And we're going to hold that at the library. And the teens on the Youth Commission have already been approaching local businesses who might be looking for part-time work to come and have a booth at our job fair. So that's just an example of something I'd like to try to do and that we're already doing. So I'm looking forward to it.
Thank you and congratulations.
Thanks again.
We need that signature.
So you sign it and you leave it with me, and you sign on that side, and then I keep it.
While Tom signs his oath of office, that concludes our report of the Committee of the Whole. And I just want to, again, take the opportunity to thank the approximate 180 residents, and in this case, we have a member of the Park District as well as the library, because we work closely with those other local agencies, and we find there's no need to compete, but wherever we can work together, we're serving the community far better. So we thank Tom in advance, but he's already been working with our Youth Commission and in plans of this job fair, which is a great idea, which came from the kids. It was their idea, and that's the beauty of empowering, I think a great term, our young citizens. We now move, if you're following along on the agenda, to page 3, item 11, consent agenda. This is, I would ask if there are any trustees who wish to remove an item from the consent agenda. Are there any trustees who wish to register a vote on any single item on the agenda? If not seeing any, is there a motion to approve the items contained on the consent agenda, which are on page 3 and 4?
So moved.
Second.
There's a motion by trustee, was it Scaletta?
Glasgow.
Oh, Glasgow. And seconded by trustee Farwell. Roll call.
Trustee Glasgow?
Yes.
Trustee Farwell?
Yes.
Trustee Scaletta?
Yes.
Trustee Sidor?
Yes.
Trustee Blackwood?
Yes.
Trustee Breyer?
Yes.
Trustee Hayes?
Yes.
Trustee Rosenberg?
Yes.
President Mulder?
Yes. Mr. Dixon, I've never gotten through halfway through our agenda without calling on you. I hope I didn't skip anything.
I'm doing fine, Mayor, thank you.
Okay. Well, now's your turn. Page 5, new business, side variance.
Thank you. This variation request is for floor and decor at 600 East Rand Road. It's to allow the placement of one code-compliant wall sign and 3 additional wall signs where 1 wall sign is allowed. The Design Commission considered this on January 22 and unanimously recommended approval to the Village Board with conditions.
Trustee Hayes?
This makes a lot of sense. I think it's in keeping with our policy of trying to do all we can to help local businesses thrive in a tough economy. So I think is a reasonable request and is something that we should grant and concur with the Plan Commission's recommendation, and so I would so move.
Second.
Motion to concur with the recommendation from the Plan Commission made by trustee Hayes, seconded by trustee Glasgow. Trustee Farwell.
I just had a question for staff, because I don't think it was readily evident necessarily in the documents that was provided. What would be the total square footage for the singular squares, for the singular sign that would be to code? It just says that the one was the floor and decor was to code, but was there any extra room for square footage that we could also kind of include there?
The code requirement would be for a 150 square foot sign, which they're meeting with this sign here. They also have a sign that would face Palatine Road that's a code compliant sign, so that's not before you. We can just issue a permit for that.
Okay, so the one sign that one of the 3 signs, the one is right at the number.
That's correct.
Okay, all right, so there wasn't any room. Okay, and, in the spirit of Trustee Dady, when he was here, he was always looking at these sign variances. He always made sure that we met the criterion, so that these weren't just handed out kind of on I wasn't going to say that, but on kind of a frivolous mindset here, and just kind of based on what the sign looks like. It looks fine, it looks pretty, so we'll give it to you. There were 5 different criteria that was basically that there was a particular hardship that wasn't created by the petitioner, that the granting of it doesn't create a traffic hazard, it doesn't, the variation would serve to relieve the petitioner of a particular difficulty, this case would be so far back, and that it doesn't alter the character of the locality, and the petitioner's business can't reasonably function without the standards of the chapter. I think given the turnover and the area, the kind of slightly blighted area that the business have experienced in the past in this particular shopping center, certainly prove a number of those items. So I think I think Trustee Hayes was right in saying this was a very logical sign variance to grant. So I'm in favor of it.
Trustee Rosenberg.
Is the petitioner present?
Would you please come up, identify yourself and your affiliation with the project?
I'm Scott Caswell, the project manager for the corporate operations team.
I'm Robert Reeves. I'm the construction manager for the facility, for the site. Work out of Atlanta.
And I'm Ali Zahidi. I'm the general manager of this location.
I think the only mic that's operable is the one in the middle, so if you can all, when you respond, utilize that as the best you can. I want to stand corrected, too. This comes to us with a recommendation from the Design Commission, who does signs. So I'm so used to Plan Commission, it sort of rolls off. So just for the record, please correct that, Becky. Okay, to indicate Design Commission. Continue your questions, Trustee Rosenberg.
I just wanted to thank you for bringing your business to Arlington Heights, and maybe you could briefly describe your business on behalf, since the meeting is televised, and let the residents know what you're bringing to Arlington Heights.
Basically, our business, we are a hard surface flooring retailer based out of Atlanta, Georgia. We have just opened up a location in our Lombard, Illinois, done very well. And basically moving up here with floor and decor, usually we just have the floor and decor as a logo itself. We've noticed that people don't really understand the brand that we have and what we sell, and the tile wood stone would really help us have that visual for especially the drive-bys. And in this case, having that prominent on the display itself as a setback from the two roads and the low visibility between the two restaurants. Having that on the front facade would just help quickly identify for the pass-by drivers to understand what we are, and who we are, and what we sell.
So in addition to your flooring material, you also do provide insulation or arrange for that also?
We actually have, we have, one of our big customers are our pro business. So we really try and pump in a lot of our pro customers. We don't do install ourselves, but we do like our, what we call our professional customers. I'm sure Ali, as the general manager of the store, can really touch on that a lot better than I can.
Sure. Basically, we're the largest flooring supplier in the world. We sell 3 products, tile, wood, and stone. Anything that's hard surface flooring we sell. And basically 40% of our business is contractor-based, 60% is DIY. We're the lowest price leader in the world. I sound like a commercial, but we truly are. Everyday low prices. We don't do any discounts, any sales. And we encourage all of you to come take a look. Anybody that walks into the store, I manage the Lombard store, is in awe. That is the only complaint we ever get in our location is the selection is overwhelming. We have people that know what they want when they come to the store, and they leave frustrated because they are so overwhelmed by our selection. So 80, our range is about 60 to 110,000 square feet of tile, believe it or not, tile and wood. So it's a toy store for adults and contractors.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Welcome to Arlington Heights.
Thank you.
Other comments? Do you sell that stuff that people themselves can do as well?
Yeah, that's
Absolutely,
DIY.
absolutely. We also do classes every Saturday, 10 and 2, how to install wood and how to install tiles. So we encourage all of you to stop by. We'll be opening hopefully on April 18th.
Can you conduct the class at somebody's house too?
We're not
Could you
that
show
good
me
yet.
that again? Any other comments? Was there anybody in the audience that wished to address this subject? Seeing none, do we have a motion?
Yes, we do.
And a second?
Yes, we do.
Yes.
Anything else from staff? Roll call.
Trustee Hayes?
Yes?
Trustee Glasgow?
Yes.
Trustee Rosenberg?
Yes.
Trustee Scaletta?
Yes.
Trustee Sidor?
Yes.
Trustee Blackwood?
Yes.
Trustee Breyer?
Yes.
Trustee Farwell?
Yes.
President Mulder?
Yes. We wish you the best of luck.
Thank you for your support.
And
Thank you.
welcome to
Thank
our
you very
village.
much.
Okay. We move to item B, where we have a report of the Building Code and Review Board meeting of January 22nd. Mr. Dixon?
This is for Pure Juice at 24 South Evergreen. They requested a variation for a single washroom. As the mayor indicated, the Building Code Review Board met on January 22nd and unanimously recommended approval to the village board.
Comments or a motion? Trustee Scaletta and then Trustee Glasgow?
Mayor, I've read the minutes from the Building Code Review Board. I was not in attendance at that meeting as we had a village board meeting at that same time. But this is exactly what the Building Code Review Board is supposed to be doing, which is taking a look at areas of our code that don't necessarily fit all sizes. And this is a small location, and they should have just one restroom, and I would move approval.
I would second. I echo the comments of Trustee Scaletta, which he so eloquently put.
Motion by Trustee Scaletta, seconded by Trustee Glasgow. Any other comments? Anyone in the audience? Roll call.
Trustee Scaletta?
Yes.
Trustee Glasgow?
Yes.
Trustee Hayes?
Yes.
Trustee Rosenberg?
Yes.
Trustee Sidor?
Yes.
Trustee Blackwood?
Yes.
Trustee Breyer?
Yes.
Trustee Farwell?
Yes.
President Mulder?
Yes. And just for our board members to know that there was a meeting with staff and myself just this past week by this shopping center owner, and saying, some of these things some of our codes need to be looked at for the size of business. When they're large, maybe they need what we have in our code, but if they're really very small, that maybe there can be an alternate, or we can just continue to use the building code review. That's why they're there. So.
Well, and it helps when building owners and property managers are involved. And I mean, for 2 years, we reviewed the code that we were going to adopt. So there was plenty of time for people to voice their concerns. But the Building Code Review Board is definitely a place to go for relief. I would caution everyone to realize that Building Code Review Board has been very clear that they will not grant variances based on an economic hardship only. So just want to make sure that everyone's clear on that cannot be the only reason that you come for a variance to the Building Code Review Board.
Thank you for that additional comment. There might be some businesses out there. I mean, the business-friendly phrase has been used a lot, but I think there's a lot of validity to it because it creates a win-win. A win for the village and a win for the business when you can work things through like this and realize that this still is providing the same level when you look at the square footage.
Mm-hmm.
So we have a motion and a second. Any other comments?
We already voted, Mayor.
And it's all good?
Yes.
Okay. We move on to Star Cinema Grill. If the petitioner is present, would they please come forward and identify themselves?
Hi, my name is Omar Khan. I'm the president and CEO of Star Cinema Grill.
Welcome, Omar. Nice to see you again.
Good to see you too.
Mayor?
This is the Star Cinema Grill, and Mr. Dixon? Oh, I'm sorry, I'm supposed to do this. You're right.
Thank you.
Trustee Scaletta. I want to recognize Trustee Scaletta to make a comment.
Thank you. As the former operator of Arlington Theaters, I'm going to be recusing myself from all discussion and deliberation of the new theater. I just don't think it would be fair to the petitioner for me to provide input in this matter. There's 8 other able-bodied people up here to be able to ask the questions that need to be asked, and so at this time, I'm going to excuse myself from the rest of the meeting. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Scaletta, and appreciate your respectfulness. I know one other meeting you sat silent and made no motion.
No, that's difficult to do.
So, let the record reflect the statements made by Trustee Scaletta. And you still have 8 of us. Wow, okay. Obviously, bringing back a theater in the village of Arlington Heights, as we truly enjoyed one and miss it tremendously, and so many of our residents are excited about the potential of you opening the Star Cinema Grill as soon as possible and bring those movies back to Town Square shopping area. Mr. Dixon?
Just to focus on what is before the board this evening as relates to this petition, 2 things. An amendment to the plan unit development to allow up to 9 restaurants within the Town Square development. That's for the overall development. That is not just for the theater. That number is changed because of the theater's intent to have a restaurant. The second item is a special use to allow a restaurant within the theater. This matter was considered by the Plan Commission on January 23. The commission unanimously recommended approval to the village board with conditions.
Thank you. Here's the site. I think most of our residents are familiar with Town Square development. It does entail an entire block just across the street from this village hall. And the diagram up in front of you, or the map, is got the arrow pointing to the actual theater property. There's obviously been a great deal of public sentiment about restoring that space with an operational theater, and we're very pleased, Omar, that you're here with your company operating in another state, but venturing out to the great state of Illinois and starting with Arlington Heights for your first theater in our state. I know that you were present at the Plan Commission meeting.
Yes, ma'am.
We have the transcript
Yes, ma'am.
accompanied with a lot of ideas. If there's anything you wish to sort of open up and share with the board members, I'd certainly grant you that opportunity.
Well, nothing other than the fact that we're super excited and can't wait to get started. And now even more excited that we know we have a place that we can buy floor and decor from.
That was a good ad, wasn't it? I tell you.
Right, that's a great ad for us.
It is being televised and will be repeated for a couple of weeks here.
Right.
So you really get your money's worth here. And so I'm sure a lot of people are going to want to watch this version of our meeting this evening to see what's that theater going to be like.
Sure.
I would ask trustees for questions, and I'll start with Trustee Farwell.
Mr. Khan, thank you again for coming this evening. We've had an opportunity to meet you before and have a nice discussion about your business plan, and you're coming today with a recommendation. But since we've had the benefit of the discussion, yet our attendees and the viewers at home might not understand maybe the change between what they experienced as their theater experience before versus what you're proposing. So can you walk the public through as I go and I buy the ticket, and then what happens? I'm going to a movie and I'm hungry and I'm going to your place. What do we do?
Sure. So as a guest, you would come into the theater. Originally, it had an external box office, which will be converted to an internal box office. And actually, in the summertime, you'll be able to use both sides. So depending if it's hot outside and you want to come in and purchase a movie ticket, you could do that. Or if it's beautiful weather outside and you want to stand in line outside and do that, you're welcome to do that as well. So once you've purchased your movie ticket, you'd come inside. There's a bar area, there's a lobby area in which we have seating and tables where we would do tableside service to guests that want to come in and have food, drinks, appetizers, full service out to the lobby. If you decide that you want to go into the auditorium and order your food and drinks there, we're 100% full service food and all beverages seat side as you enjoy your show. So basically, we take the convenience of having a restaurant and a movie theater, we combine those two components and serve our guests as they sit and prepare to watch a movie.
All right, that's great. And then how many movie theaters again?
There will be 6 auditoriums. consisting of 707 seats as of now. All the seats are designed, and tables are designed to be more of an intimate style seating, so every 2 seats has a table of their own, and at each table you have a paging system, something to write with, an order card, and menus. So you would decide what you would like to eat or drink, you would write it down on your order card, you'd page a waiter. The waiter would then come in and pick up the order card, put the order in, and it would bring the food and drinks out to you as soon as they're ready.
All right, great. And then how do you handle the liquor aspect of it? Because this is a new concept that we've seen kind of emerge in the northwest suburbs, and now have the benefit of having it here in Arlington Heights. Each one does it a little bit differently, so how do you plan on doing it?
Sure. So we handle that typically as any restaurant does. Whenever you go and sit at a table inside the auditorium, that table is assigned a server. So if myself and someone else were to go watch a movie and order alcoholic beverages, we serve, we check the IDs at the time when the drink is ordered. We only serve 1 drink per ID, and just as any restaurant, the server is allocated to bring those drinks out and drop them off at the guest table.
Okay. And then you have a system so that you can kind of keep track of how many drinks each person has.
Yes, sir. Our POS has a system that kind of tells us it tells us how many drinks they have, of course, which is normal in a lot of the restaurant-style POSs, but it also tells us how long ago they ordered those drinks, and so therefore we can kind of guide our servers, and our servers know how many drinks we allow per that movie or per specific time frame.
Great. And I know in our last conversation, you were explaining to us what your Houston business model is with respect to children in the theater. Anybody under the age of 18 had to be accompanied by an adult, otherwise not there. And then after talking to us, and I think talking to the mayor and talking to the community, you have graciously changed your business model to fit what Arlington Heights would typically expect to see.
Right. I think in order to be successful, I think it's important to know what your market demands, what the community demands, and what's important to that specific market. And, we came into this market thinking that what we've done in Texas is going to be successful here as well, and it may. But I think the community feedback is very important to us, and kind of going through a few months of that and dealing with the community, contacting us directly in our corporate office, and dealing with you guys, we kind of came to the conclusion and said we think this is an important part for us, and we have to be versatile enough to change some of those rules in order to be successful, and we think that was the right decision for us.
Great. Mr. Khan, I personally thank you as a parent and as a trustee for being open and minded enough to change your business model. I appreciate that. And then there were 4 other conditions set forth in the Plan Commission recommendation. Have you had a chance to review and agree to the others?
Yes, we have. I guess number 2 is that the size of the grease trap would be to the minimum requirements. We have met with Lou from the plumbing department, and we have already kind of figured out our engineers have figured out what size grease trap we need according to our seating count, and it will be more than sufficient for what the minimum requirements are for our grease trap. Simply because if the minimum requirement, which is 750 gallons, we don't want the exercise of having to clean the trap repetitively over 1 week or 2 weeks or whatever it might be. We'd like to have a grease trap that we feel is the right size and can be serviced at the right time frames as well.
All right, great.
So yes, I guess to answer your question, we have taken all that in consideration. We do have our engineer and our architect designing a suitable grease trap which exceeds the minimum requirement.
Great. Then at this time, I'd be honored to move approval.
Second.
A motion by Trustee Farwell, seconded by Trustee Glasgow. Trustee Sidor.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Mr. Khan, for bringing hopefully a theater, to our village. As I read the conditions, and I read all the Plan Commission minutes, et cetera, I know you're fully aware of all the conditions that have been put on you. When things are vague, I always like to try to get my arms around things. And there's a second portion of the first condition that says, any age restriction proposed by Star Cinema Grill in the future shall be reviewed and approved by the village board. What could you foresee in your mind that might possibly happen with your business, with this current business model that you've changed for our village? what might happen in the future in your mind that where you would bring a, a different type of age restriction to us?
Well, our main concern was, at some given point, if we have a high flux of teenagers that hang out at the facility and it becomes an issue of safety for the rest of the guests that are there to enjoy a movie with their family. Being a teenager at some point, we all know that there are a few of us out there that were rowdy and can get rowdy. And in order to control that, we think that if it ever got out of hand, that we like an opportunity to at least discuss that. And I don't know, and I don't think that that's something that's going to happen, but it was kind of something that we just wanted to talk about and see if it was a possibility. I think being across the street from the police department and having a community that's actively involved, and I don't foresee that being an issue, but, we would have liked that consideration.
Okay. Are you okay with the language then, the way it sits, where you would have to come to the board and where the decision-making might be taken out of your hands for that particular portion of the conditions?
No, I'm okay with it because I think at that point, if we had many disturbances, or if we had any of those issues, all you guys would be aware of those, and so would the police department, and so would everybody. And if we sat down as a group and said, look, we think this is the best interest of everybody's safety, I think that you guys would agree. And so I'm okay with putting that out of my hands, but in everybody's hands as a cumulative decision that best suits the theater and the community.
That's a good answer. Okay. If you're good with it, I'm good with it. I just want to make sure we weren't overreaching a little bit here and taking decisions that might be, in your favor or in your hands, and partnering with you on those decisions. So I'm okay with it.
And the theater's, I think, an important part of the community, and I think you guys realize that as well and appreciate that, and you guys want a theater there as well as we do.
Thank you.
So, like I said, I think all considerations, everyone will be fair if it ever came down to that, and can take that aspect in consideration.
Great. I'm glad you feel that way after going through the whirlwind of all the commissions and boards that you've already. How many meetings have you been to? Way too many, right? A lot of
Where's the
hours.
apartment that you've gotten now? No.
That's all I had. I just want to make sure he was okay.
No
with
problem.
it. Thank
We're
you.
okay with the language.
Okay.
I think there's been, to your point, Trustee Sidor, a number of different meetings, and Omar's visited here over several months. I mean, at the end of last year, they were already in negotiations, and I think you have shown a lot about your flexibility in recognizing that every state, every community has just a slight different bent on who lives there and what they're used to. And we do have a lot of young people who like to meet, as I indicated to you several months ago, but they tend to then go to like a coffee house or something like that afterwards, as opposed to hanging around within the lobby or whatever. And that might be different in Houston. So I'm very, very pleased that coming out of the Plan Commission, there was concurrence that we'll start and see how everything works.
Sure.
You still are the businessman?
Excuse me.
As I say, you still are the business
Thank you.
person. And if you see that, I'm sure that if you come and address this board, and I think that was put in here, that you can come back, and this is both you and the village and our residents
Right.
truly want this to be a huge, huge success.
Thank you.
So,
Thank you.
Trustee
And-
Hayes? Oh, go ahead, Omar.
I was going to say also our venues in particular, when you compare them to a big megaplex theater, they're so much more controllable because of the size, and manageable, because what happens is even when the teenagers are coming in or enjoying a movie, they're sitting at a table and there is a server or staff allocated to them. We find from going back from meeting with you guys and analyzing our operations in the Texas market, and looking at them from just a step back, saying it's very manageable because our facilities are not 150,000 square feet or 100,000 square feet facilities. There's a lot more staff entailed in our facility than there is some of the other ones, and we felt like it was 100% manageable and more of a controlled environment than your standard megaplex of 30 screens that have hallways and tunnels and things for the kids to find areas to be mischievous in, and there's a lot less opportunity for that here, so we felt like we could control it.
We parents try to think we're given some good examples, so
Right.
I'm sure our kids will try to be behaved.
Right.
Trustee Hayes and then Trustee Glasgow.
Right. Mr. Khan, just along the lines of continuing to educate the public and your future customers in terms of your business model, you're not required to purchase food, is that correct?
That is correct.
So if someone wants to just come in and watch the movie, they can do that? Or if they just want to buy popcorn or something to drink, they can do that?
You are correct, sir. So if you come inside and you decide that you would like absolutely nothing to eat or drink, you have the right to not purchase anything.
Okay.
We do not require any of our guests to purchase anything, but we do require you to purchase a movie ticket to come into the facility.
Right. And then the other question, Mr. Khan, was with respect to possible disturbances. You've mentioned that a couple of times. What's your plan for handling possible disturbances? Are individuals to alert their servers, or is there a manager that's available?
Well, there is management on staff, but like I've said before, that depending on the style of movies, depending on the time of the year and the season, in which is our busy season, for instance, the summer, we typically house security from the local police department to kind of have that presence and deter the fact that anyone that comes in there, that presence usually kind of deters the disturbances as well.
How about with respect to just minor disturbances, though? Certainly we don't want to be calling the police over
Right.
for
Right.
just loud talking or something like that. There are people, though, management that
Correct.
Patrons can go and say, could you please quiet these people down or something
Yes.
like that?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir. The down from all the way from the server to the management, they're all trained on how to handle those situations particularly, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Trustee Glasgow?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Mr. Khan, when we met during the course of the Committee of the Whole meeting, one of the things that I told you was listen to your community. And I was very pleased to read in the minutes from the Plan Commission that you're a community-based theater, and we think the majority of support will come from the community when you were speaking with the Plan Commission. I was very impressed with your flexibility. I was also very impressed with your willingness to accommodate what we had asked from you. You have all the makings of a good business partner and a good corporate citizen. I appreciate that. I do have a question. How soon are you going to be up?
Depends on how fast we can get through the building department.
Nixon?
Well,
Well, this does raise the opportunity for me to say something I think needed clarifying. First of all, I'm sure they'll go through the building department very expeditiously.
Right.
There was a comment earlier about all these meetings, and really with this petitioner, he went to a subcommittee of the Plan Commission once. He went to the Plan Commission once. He met with the village board to talk about a liquor license once. And tonight, he's on the verge of getting approval for everything. So this was handled very expeditiously.
And that was within
I
the
agree.
space of what, roughly 2 weeks, 3 weeks?
That's about right.
I was making reference to some meetings that I think Diana McCula and I had at the end of last year.
Yeah.
Just meeting Mr. Khan for the first time and his wife, and their excitement about the potential of what we're doing tonight
Right.
occurring. And then I think both Ms. McCula and I have had communications back and forth by phone and email from the last 3 or 4 months, because we know that this is an important issue to the citizens of our community, and we wanted to make sure. But you make a very good point. My comments needed to be put into context. There's been a lot of communication, but not involving the entire village board and official meetings.
Madam Mayor, could I
let-
just...
Final comment?
I just had some further comments, and I just want to say thank you for listening to all of us on the board with regard to the age restriction.
Welcome.
It's a unique area of the city, of the village, where we have kids that they go to the movie theater as a draw for them, and I think the parents and the kids are going to really enjoy what you have to offer. Thank you for listening to us, and thank you for taking our concerns.
You're welcome.
Trustee Blackwood?
Mr. Khan, I was looking at the minutes of the Plan Commission meeting, and I was going to ask you a few questions about your business model. In the actual minutes, it indicated that you actually make 49% of your income from food, and then there's 18% from, I believe, liquor sales.
Correct.
And when someone walks into your theater. They have to buy a ticket to actually come into the theater. And then if they wanted, do you have a restaurant area that you're going to be having in the lobby together with a bar?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
If they choose to just stay in the restaurant and just order cocktails, for example, from the bar, they can do that without going to see a film?
They can, but they would still have to purchase a movie ticket. So we consider ourselves a movie theater, and at the end of the day, we require every guest or patron to purchase a movie ticket before they come in. And at that point, if they decided they did not want to watch a movie, they have the right to do that, but they would still pay the ticket price.
In that area, it said also that you had televisions?
Yes.
Okay, are you going to name the restaurant, or are you just going to?
No.
Leave it, okay,
Yeah.
unnamed.
Yeah, it's not unnamed. I mean, meaning it's just a part of our our grill side of the business. So it holds the same name as the Star Cinema Grill. So not a separate name for the internal entities, if that's what you're asking.
Right.
Right.
And if I came in and wanted to buy a hamburger and have a beer while I'm waiting for the theater or the film to begin, would I be able to take any residual food and beverage to my seat?
Yes, ma'am. Yes,
I
ma'am.
could.
Yes, ma'am. So if you sat in the lobby and decided that you were going to have a hamburger and a drink in the lobby area or the bar, and at any given point, if you decided that you wanted to go inside and take that food inside, you're welcome to take it inside.
Okay. Thank you very much. I was just interested in, making sure that, I think as Trustee Farwell said, that a lot of the folks at home that are listening to this, it wasn't just strictly a situation where you would just go to your seat and then place your order for food and beverage. You could sit down, you could relax, you could wait for the film, you could eat part of the food, drink part of the beverage, and still take it in with you.
Yes, and we do have a lot of people that kind of like to stage that as guests as well. They'll come in, purchase a movie ticket, go to the lobby or the restaurant area, order appetizers, order drinks. They'll get there 30, 40 minutes before the movie starts, so they're there at the venue eating or having, something out there. And then when the movie gets ready to start, they close their tab, go inside, and have an entree or desserts and so on and so forth continued inside.
Great. Thank you very much.
Trustee Breyer?
Is one of those who initially raised the issue of age access. I, like the others who've expressed the sentiment, happy that you've relaxed that policy, because in this way you are not driving our young people to go to another community to see a film. Speaking of behavior, and it's not only teens that do this, of course, if you end up sitting next to somebody who decides their cell phone is a better amusement than the movie, what is your policy towards that?
What would happen is if a cell phone was being used or if it was disturbing a guest next to them or anyone in that auditorium, the server would come down and ask the guest to turn the phone off or quiet it down. If there was any kind of resistance or they felt like they needed manager support to do that, they know to go ahead and contact a manager and say, this guest is kind of rowdy and I don't feel comfortable approaching them, so please, we'd like a management position to take care of that. So we do ask our guests to turn their phones off, as all the other movie theaters, before the movie starts. We do have an announcement before the actual trailers begin that says, please silence your cell phones at this time, and so on and so forth. And from what we see, most of our guests do kind of abide to that and listen to it, because it's a different movie watching experience than the megaplexes.
Right, I have no other questions.
Thank you. Trustee Farwell?
It's two very short things. I know we've been talking a lot about the movie experience, which is the main thrust of your business model, but on the background portion, which I think is up there on the screen now, it appears that you could also rent one of the theaters out for business meetings or training seminars. Would that be the same in Arlington Heights?
Yes, it will.
So that'd be a great service for a business with respect to Arlington Heights.
Correct.
That's
Correct.
fantastic.
Yeah. The bottom one is actually a training seminar for a suburban city that we're a part of in Texas. So we do a lot of fire department, city meetings and things like that we host for the city or anything for the community. We rent the auditoriums. We can have the capability of doing PowerPoint presentations through our digital projectors, private style movies. A lot of guests will come in and say, we'd like to watch something that came out, a classic movie that's not available at this point, and we can play those for our guests through our digital projection. And sporting events as well. So for instance, yesterday, we did play the Super Bowl at one of our locations, and it was absolutely free, and the guests can come in to watch the Super Bowl with their families and enjoy it that way as well.
That's great. That's fantastic. And then just one last comment. It really doesn't have anything particular to do with your petition, but I wanted to kind of dovetail on Mr. Dixon's comments with respect to the expedience in which your applications has had. But in taking a look at, with the exception of the Frontier Park, which is a totally different feel of a petition tonight, all the other petitions, and looking at this from the date of application to the date of final formal board meeting, has been anywhere from 4 to 6 weeks. And in looking at the dates, and I'm looking at the dates when we've met and the various commissions or boards that these various applications might have gone through, we haven't missed a single shot. Nobody was ever put back onto an agenda that wasn't already readily available. So I think it does prove that, although it appears maybe that you were on a fast track as opposed to others, in looking at all the applications this evening, I don't think that is the case. You did an awful lot of work in a short period of time, but I think the village worked with you on this as well, and I think it's a win-win situation, not only for your particular petition, but also in the petitions we've heard already this evening. So that's great. Thank you.
No, I commend everybody at the village. Everyone's worked really hard to kind of expedite this and move us along fast, and Diana was great and helping us as well, and with actually regards to everybody, everyone's been wonderful to work with and given us, I think, a pretty expedited performance here. So we appreciate that.
Great. Thank you.
Any other comments from anybody? Trustee Rosenberg?
Mr. Khan, thank you. To echo the other trustees for, again, bringing the theater. I think back at the last meeting that we had, you talked about the use of security guards as you did earlier. Do you have a set time frame that you're going to automatically do that, or will you just gauge that by the nature of the crowds? Or
Yes, we'll gauge that by the nature of the crowds and kind of as an as-is needed basis, but typically those are, your Friday, your Saturdays from 6 p.m. to closing time, whatever that may be, till your last movie gets out. So, we do, once we open the doors, we'll kind of look at the necessity of when we need it and kind of mold it into our operation as we go.
Great, thank you.
I certainly want to thank you, and just to follow up on the recommendation from the Plan Commission, it did also specify about perhaps some noises coming from the roof you will be adding some different vents and so forth because of the food element in the restaurant, and you're adjacent and have over you residential. So hopefully that all will be done to respect
Yes,
the
ma'am.
sleeping hours.
Yes, ma'am. We'll do our best effort to make sure that all the vents are furthest east of the condo complex, as far as east we can possibly get, as well as enhancing the sound deadening and the sound-resistant products that are in the theater currently. We found that they weren't sufficient to our satisfaction, just as a simple walkthrough, so they will be enhanced. And hopefully that'll cut down a lot of the sound transfer from the theater to the condos.
Well, I know that it's been mentioned about the interest of our citizenry, about the return of a movie house right here within walking distance of a lot of residential areas. And we have a little better weather than we're having today. They can take advantage of that. And I know that the other merchants in the shopping center have been eagerly waiting as well.
Yes, ma'am.
For not necessarily a restaurant, but the movie theater.
Well, we still see that typically when we open, and we normally open around restaurants or whatever it might be, we still see that a lot of the restaurants in the community see an increase in sales just because of the traffic counts that we bring in. So in regards to some of the neighbors that are restaurants, I don't want anyone to really feel like that it may hurt their business in any sense. We've never seen an instance where that's happened. Just simply bringing hundreds of thousands of people to the facility helps all the retail around it, including the restaurants.
I would agree with you, because I think we're one of the few communities that have numerous restaurants on any given block.
Right,
So
right.
Everybody's got a little different flavor.
Right.
I think you've heard only positive things.
Right.
Becky, we have a motion
Yes, we do.
and a second.
Yes, we do.
Is there anyone in the audience that wish to make any comments? Mr. Dixon, anything more from staff?
No, thank you.
Anything more from here? We've long been waited for. Motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Trustee Farwell?
Yes.
Trustee Glasgow?
Yes.
Trustee Hayes?
Yes.
Trustee Rosenberg?
Yes.
Trustee Sidor?
Yes.
Trustee Blackwood?
Yes.
Trustee Breyer?
Yes.
President Mulder?
Yes. I would now ask Trustee Rosenberg if you would so make a motion in regards to item 16A on our agenda later, if we could move it up to this point in the agenda.
Mayor, I would make a motion to move up item 16A under report of the village manager for consideration of issuing a Class AA liquor license for Star Cinema Grill to this point in the agenda.
Second.
Motion made by Trustee Rosenberg, seconded by Trustee Farwell, to amend the agenda to bring forward at this point item 16A. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Motion carries. While we have you, we'll just keep you there. Mr. Dixon, comments on the proposal for the liquor license?
Yes, thank you. At the Committee of the Whole meeting of January 22nd, Mr. Khan, representing Star Cinema Grill, was interviewed for a Class AA liquor license at the subject property, 53 South Evergreen, the former Arlington Theaters. Because the item was set to be heard the following evening by the Plan Commission from a land use standpoint, no motion was made by the Village Board Committee of the Whole at its January 22 session. As you've heard earlier this evening, on the 23rd, the Plan Commission made a favorable recommendation, which the board has just acted upon. So in terms of the logistics of this project continuing to move forward, it would be appropriate this evening for the board to consider issuing a liquor license as part of this agenda this evening.
I would move that we recommend approval.
Second.
Motion by Trustee Hayes, seconded by Trustee Rosenberg, to request the issuance of Liquor Commissioner, the liquor license AA for Star Cinema Grill. Question, Trustee Rosenberg.
Mr. Khan, the age of the servers that you will be hiring, is that, do you have a certain minimum age that you typically require?
We require our servers to be 18. In order to be a bartender, in order to prepare, you have to be 21. I'm sorry, we are 18 to serve.
Okay.
And some communities are different as far as, I guess, 21 to be a bartender or to create the drinks or whatever you call it. But I don't think that that's the case here in the village, is it?
There is a legal
Mr.
problem.
Mr. Siegel.
There's a legal problem with the age of
Okay.
servers.
Okay.
The age in Arlington Heights is 19.
It is 19. Okay, no problem. We will abide to that.
As a server and a bartender, Mr. Siegel?
Anybody selling or serving has to be 19 in Arlington Heights.
Okay. And how about dropping off to the table? Yours, 19?
Mm-hmm.
No problem.
So to further that question, so will you, then, is it correct that I understand the fact that, so you will not be hiring anybody under the age of 19 then?
No, we will be only hiring staff members as servers or bartenders that are 19. We do have ticket ushers. We do have food runners. We do have box office ushers that sell movie tickets that we will allow to be, 16 or younger than 19.
we have certain, you're familiar, I hope, with our liquor ordinances which require certain tests before
Yes.
servers.
Yes, sir.
And we recommend the
Bassett
Bassett
training.
training class.
Yes, ma'am.
Not internet.
Yes. All of our servers, management, including myself, are all to be certified through Bassett for the Bassett card.
Very smart, very smart. Okay, we have a
And
motion.
not by a computer, but by actual training.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Siegel. See, I'm getting there. Okay. Any other, we have a motion and a second to recommend the issuance of a liquor license. Any other comments from anybody? Mr. Khan?
I just want to thank you guys.
All right. We could have a voice vote, but have a roll call.
Voice vote is
A
okay.
voice vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Motion carries.
Thank you.
How soon will the liquor license be? No, get construction going. I think we have plenty of time.
Yeah.
But do contact Diana and get whatever necessary into us, and that'll be done in adequate time before the opening. Any
Thank you.
prediction as to,
We're shooting for hopefully late May, mid-May to late May. So, and I think we can attain that. It'll be a challenge for us, and we'll have to work hard to get there. But we're prepared to do that. This was a major step for us today, obtaining a liquor license, and that kind of kicks everything in gear. So we appreciate that.
I hope you can tell we're trying to help you.
I can, and I appreciate it sincerely.
Best of luck.
You guys have been great. Thank you guys.
Great.
Good luck,
Thank
sir.
you. Best of luck, and hopefully all the things that are necessary to be done with the owner of the shopping center will go smoothly.
Yes, ma'am.
All
Thank
right.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you. We go back to page 8 and item D. Mr. Dixon?
This is the petition of the Arlington Heights Park District pertaining to Frontier Parks Master Plan in the 1900 block of North Kennecott. The district is asking for an amendment to the village's comprehensive plan to change the underlying land use designation for the property from single-family detached estate 2 to parks, a rezoning from R2 one-family dwelling district to public lands, an amendment to the existing plan unit development ordinance to allow various improvements to the park. The district is also asking for a special use to allow a community center recreation building, and then there are approval requested of various plats and some variations. This matter has been reviewed extensively with the community and by the Plan Commission. The Plan Commission considered it on January 9, and by a vote of 6-1 recommended approval to the board with a number of conditions.
Thank you. Just as a reminder for members in the audience, if there's anyone who wishes to address the village board on this particular item, we would still appreciate you filling out it helps our clerk a lot, one of the blue slips in the back of the room, and just bring it up to Becky, our clerk. If the petitioner would please come forward, identify yourself, and introduce this small project.
Good evening and thank you. I am Steve Schulten. I'm Executive Director of the Arlington Heights Park District, and I have John Jarnowski, FGM Architects, who will be assisting in the presentation. I just want to give a quick background of some of the process that's been involved with this. As the Village Board does, the Park District takes very seriously the input that it gathers from the community, and part of our master planning process for this park began in February of 2010. We subsequently held 5 meetings with the neighbors and users of the park to come up with the plan that we have before you today. Now, this is a 3-phase project. Only phases 1A and 1B will be completed with the current funding that we have available, which does include an OSLAD grant from the Illinois Department of Natural Resources. During the master plan meetings, Frontier Park neighbors provided significant input, overwhelmingly preferred on-street parking solutions to the loss of green space within the park. The current design was recommended and strongly preferred by our park neighbors, and in fact, I've been in the public recreation business for 35-plus years. I've attended many meetings, been to many presentations, and for the first time in my career, as the board approved the master plan, the 25 residents that we had in the audience that night actually applauded the decision by the board. So we were very happy with that. As with most large projects, improvements of this scale require a variation to the underlying parking code. Village of Arlington Heights Code calls for 729 parking spaces upon completion of Phase 2. The parking variation included in this PUD approval and as approved by the Plan Commission and village staff provides for 272 parking spaces, which is acceptable to the Park District. In advance of Phase 2, and I do want to reiterate, there is no timetable for the completion of Phase 2, but in advance of Phase 2, data will be reviewed to confirm with the village that parking is needed before green space is converted. Now, parking at the north end of the park during athletic events was also a discussion point with the Plan Commission. This plan adds 26 parking spaces along the west side, the park side of Fernandez. Staff will work with the Arlington Heights Youth Athletic Association, who provides baseball and softball for the community, as well as our own soccer program to schedule games appropriately to minimize parking concerns.
I'd like to give a brief presentation on how we got to this point with the master plan design, why we're doing the master plan, and give you a short orientation as to what the master plan encompasses. First slide, please. Some of the background, as Steve mentioned just a moment ago, there was a series of 5 public meetings for this process. The first 2 meetings were actually neighborhood meetings at Frontier Park in the existing community center. The first meeting encompassed meeting with the neighbors to review a vision and program for the park, in which we sat with them, took down their notes on the types of amenities that would potentially be in the park. The second meeting that we came back with presented some preliminary concept plans to the neighbors. We modified those plans based on their input, brought 2 recommended comments to the park board meeting, committee of the whole meeting on April 7th, 2010. There was again public input at that point. We actually expanded and came up with another 2 concepts for the April 13th park board meeting, which were narrowed down by the May 11th park board meeting, and that is when the final master plan was approved by the park district. Next slide, please. The existing park usage plan is the next plan that you'll see. North is oriented to the top or up. Some of the features that were talked to the community talked about remaining in the park include the bathhouse and the pool, the location of the vehicular entrance into the park, the front lawn, which is really considered the area between the pool west toward Kennecott Road, and the landscape buffers on the would be the northern part of the park on the west side and the southern part of the park on the east side. There are 2 ancillary park usages which are currently on the site, a parks maintenance building and a wood chip processing facility that were discussed and recommended to be relocated or vacated by the time the master plan was completed. Next slide, please. In summary, some of the conclusions that came from the community meetings included a desire for the bathhouse entry and the community center to be located close to each other, limiting the active development of the site to the southern portion of the park, and that active development includes any lighted areas themselves, potential lighted soccer fields or tennis courts. Minimizing the athletic field parking at the perimeter of the northerly fields to match current parallel parking, which is along Fernandez Street in particular. There were a couple of concepts which we talked about, potential perpendicular parking or angled parking, or even bringing some parking into the park which the neighbors, once they looked at them and they realized the impact on the park, had suggested we'd rather have it parallel parking along Fernandez, but we would like Fernandez to be increased in width to be a safer place to park. It's currently Fernandez is a narrower street than most of the streets in Arlington Heights. So developed along those lines, some of the concept ideas that we tried to incorporate were keeping the bathhouse and the entry to the community center close together. Again, maximizing the south parking area and also trying to minimize the distance from the farthest parking spot to the door of the community center or the bathhouse, and allowing for the development of lighted athletic fields in the southern portion of the site. Next slide, please. So the master plan concepts, some of the additional features that were included were relocating the garden plots at the north side of the park. Currently, the plots run into the park so that you may have to walk up to 100 yards to get to your garden plot. So we tried to orient them along Ladd Street, east and west, so that it'd be easy to access from a vehicle. We tried to locate the vertical backstop fencing for the ball fields close to the landscape buffer on the west side of the park so that they may somewhat disappear into the trees and wouldn't be standing out. Originally, they were on the east side, and that was one of the things that we talked about with the neighbors, moving them to the west so that the backstops would perhaps be a little bit more hidden. Locating the building footprint for the community center adjacent to the bathhouse with a new bathhouse entry. Trying to incorporate the bathhouse look into the community center design at some point in the future so they would look like one building and not two separate buildings. And then maximizing the parking area for multiple uses. As Steve had mentioned before, parking was discussed quite a bit. We realized, along with the neighbors, that there was probably going to be separate parking at the northern part of the site just for athletic field use. So that's where, again, where we came up with the concept of improving the parallel parking along Fernandez Street, which is on the east side of the site at the far north. And then really trying to limit how far parking came into the park. At one point, we proposed having parking in the center of the park that could serve both the north and the south. And when the residents saw that it was really taking up the center of the park, they said, no, let's move it back down closer to where it is, but try to get it close to the building, try to get it close to the areas that it would be used. There was a desire to try to keep the front lawn, the area between the pool and Kennecott, somewhat green space and open and not fill it up with parking initially. And then again, trying to keep vehicles to the southern part of the park itself. Next slide, please. So one of the reasons that we're looking to approve the master plan tonight is that we're looking for we're looking to construct phases 1A and 1B relatively soon. But in order to do that, we wanted to make sure that the overall plan for the park was something that would stay in place long-term, so that as the park district can generate funding for other improvements in the park, we don't have to come back at each point and have something that may be a plan that may be disjointed over time and not flow from what the original plan was to something else. So along those lines, Phase 1A and 1B I'll discuss first. Phase 1A is equivalent to the dark gray shaded area of the site that you'll see on the slide, and really includes the majority of the earthwork for the athletic fields, including 2 stormwater basins, one at the northeast corner of the site, and one a little bit farther on south, but on the east side of the site itself. So there's 2 stormwater basins that would be created in that shaded gray area. Seeding for the athletic fields and general landscaping for the northern part of the site. Next slide, please. Phase 1B will include the majority of the amenities. Again, the Fernandez Street parking, which is an additional 26 spaces. sidewalks around the perimeter of the site, pathways through the middle of the site, which you can see highlighted in gray, a playground and a shelter area near the playground, garden plots, which would be developed again further to the north along Ladd Street, basketball courts, which are a little more central to the site, and then tennis courts and another stormwater basin, which are located along the southwest corner of the site. And then landscaping throughout the park, augmenting the landscaping that's already there. Next slide, please. The future phases, which are really the areas to the southern part of the site, include, and really would start with the demolition of the maintenance building that's currently on the site. That location in the future would become another detention basin, as well as expansion of the parking lot. The community center expansion, a south athletic field, a shelter for that south athletic field, which would be located between the tennis courts and the athletic field, and additional landscaping along the southern portion of the site. That's actually it. If you have any questions, please let me know. It's a lot, I know, to take in a short amount of time.
Mr. Dixon, any comments at this point?
As I mentioned, the Plan Commission did recommend approval on this at their hearing earlier in January. The vote was 6-1. There were a number of conditions which are stated on the agenda, and the petitioner has offered to answer any questions the board may have. The staff supports this project, and the complements the Park District on the vision so that they don't have to piecemeal redevelopment of this park.
Just for clarification for the board as well as our residents, the approval of this entire master plan should, let's say, 3 years down the road, needs change, and they want to move something or not do something, but in place of that, develop something else. What would be the process required by the village?
Mayor, that's a very good question. I think it depends on the extent of the change. And that decision would have to be made based on circumstances. But I think the goal here for the district in presenting the way they have and going through this extensive process was to make that unnecessary. But as you indicate, things can change, and they would need to come back if it was determined to be a significant change. And when I say come back, I mean come back through the Plan Commission and the Village Board.
And with the neighbors, which I think the Park District is noted for really sharing their plans with neighbors in my knowledge of past history of their development. It does, I personally appreciate the fact to see what the whole thing would look like 10, 20 years from now. Obviously funds and grants are going to dictate when and how much you can do at any given time. But people can make plans of what they think is going to be in their backyard or across the street, and that's helpful. Questions or comments from trustees? Trustee Farwell.
We had a meeting on Saturday. The two boards, met, and you were kind enough to give us the full presentation, so we had quite a number of questions and answers and a full discussion on it. But one thing you had brought up was the land banking of the 85 spaces in Saturday's meeting. We didn't have the benefit of the packet at the time. And in reading the condition number 5, Arlington Heights Park District shall install 85 land banked parking stalls as part of Phase 2. However, the number of the parking spaces can be reduced to the degree that the Park District can demonstrate is needed and the satisfaction to the village. Is that wording good enough for the Park District? Or are you still looking to strengthen that wording up to show that you can do Phase 2, let Phase 2 kind of, the facilities of Phase 2 kind of be phased in and then determine before we start tearing up the front lawn?
We're satisfied with that wording. If it was to change, to give us the opportunity to look at those numbers after the community center was renovated, that would certainly give us more flexibility. But we're satisfied that we can have that discussion immediately prior to the building going in and come up with an agreement on what's a good number. And if 85 is the number, then we're prepared to put the parking lot in that land banked area. Obviously, as we've stated, we would prefer to keep as much green space as we can so that we don't have parking areas that are not being used and could be used as green space.
I just want to make sure that you guys don't have to come back unnecessarily, and I'm trying to determine, because this condition number 5 feels a little bit different than what I was expecting it to read after Saturday morning's meetings. Then I came home and I started reading this, and it kind of felt more like there was a negotiation going on, or at least it felt like there was, and then this was the end result. But even in reading it, I wasn't too sure who won that. It still sounds like you have to put it in at the time of Phase 2, not after Phase 2.
That's the way we read it, yes. But obviously, with the building, if a building is to go in, there will need to be parking discussions relative to the amount of use that building, additional use that building will create over the current use.
Will create versus has created.
Correct.
Because in the Pioneer Park expansion, you have quite a bit of land bank parking facilities, that can be used once the new facility was opened and determined whether it was needed. So what's the difference between what was done at Pioneer Park, where it wasn't really forced upon you to create the parking spaces, but rather land bank it, and this one?
Well, perhaps I should defer this question to somebody else. I'll speak, and if they have a different answer, they can jump in.
Okay.
I wasn't with the district when Pioneer Park was built. The significant difference at Pioneer is, there's two differences. One is the amount of on-street parking that is available at Pioneer. Every yard that faces the park at Pioneer is a front yard, so all of those streets are available for parking. That's not the case at Frontier. Second, the building at Pioneer is about 23,000 square feet. I believe this building, just the Phase 2 part of it, would put it at about 50,000. About 50,000 square feet. So there would be more use of Frontier because we'd have more space to be able to have people.
Right. I guess I'm kind of more in favor of the Park District's approach of let's wait and see what the demands might be, because you can program the use of the parking spaces based on what's going on in that facility at the time. And then if needed, we could already have it in the ordinance where if the village says, I'm sorry, you really do need the parking, then you could install it. It's just, I don't want you guys to have to use your funds to create parking that might not necessarily be needed, and especially when the residents are very sensitive to this front lawn aspect. So I guess that's why I'm really kind of delving into this one particular.
And I appreciate the questions, Trustee Farwell. That was a discussion that we had at the staff level as well as with the Plan Commission, and the wording that you see is the wording that was agreed upon in those discussions.
Who wrote this, attorneys?
Land banking. Is that it?
I'm in it for now. I was wondering if.
Oh, Mr.
Bill,
Dixon?
Thank you. Mr. Perkins, I think, can comment on Trustee Farwell's concern, which we understand, and I think maybe you should hear from him at this time.
Mr. Perkins?
Thank you, Mr. Dixon. The way we envision this, it would be staff to staff working together after the first phase has been improved, taking the input from the neighborhood. Often we hear from neighbors, it's trying to find a balance, those that don't want parking on the street and those that don't want all the green space taken up. So we would work with the Park District trying to find what that right number is. I think the main difference between this and Pioneer has 133 spaces on site, and currently Frontier has 97. So there's a little more off-site parking. Impact, even though there's actually more off-site parking at Pioneer to accommodate those peak demands in the hot summer months or a swim meet or something like that. So we've worked really well, over the years with the Park District, and maybe that 85 only needs to be 20. We certainly don't want to see more green space taken up than needed for just 8 or 10 days a year.
Mm-hmm.
But until we, get the first phase done, we don't really know.
Right, but that's the first phase. So is it the staff's representation that they would allow the Park District, after meeting with them, and the Park District kind of shows what they're going to do with the programming of Phase 2 once complete, that then the Park District can construct Phase 2 without putting in the 85 spots?
It could
and then
be.
determine?
It could be that, they demonstrate that it's fine based upon the programming for Phase 2 and the 85 is not needed at that time. It could be 15 or 20 of those would be needed, but not all 85. We could collectively decide that, let's get the second phase done, and if there is a problem or we get complaints from the neighbors, the Park District will hear from the neighbors as well as we will, and we'll work together to address that.
Okay, so maybe by reading the minutes of all the village meetings that you've had with the residents, the Plan Commission meetings, and then the recording of this meeting, it might be kind of incorporated within 5 that there's an ongoing negotiation between the Park District and the planning department, so that maybe you could institute or construct Phase 2 and then have a wait and see on what might be needed in the parking. Are we kind of on the same page, even though 5 sounds like it's more of a requirement than a pre-requirement as opposed to a prerequisite as opposed to a subject to afterwards? So it sounds like the two administrations will work together.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Not necessarily unduly require them to build 85 units that might not be needed, or spaces.
I think our approach on all of the parks have been, they can't meet, the code requirement for their peak demands on site unless the half of that site was gray.
Right.
And nobody wants to see that. We don't want to see half the site, with parking that's not used only a few days a year. So we try to find that balance, and I think have done a good job over the years. We continue to work that way.
Right, because if we done that, the Pioneer Park, would that be the southwest corner would be a parking spot as opposed to all that lovely green space.
That's correct.
Which is technically land baked for parking, and should they ever need it, but it's proven that even the spaces that they have now, they really didn't need even in peak. So I just wanted to kind of flesh that out, especially given the extensive conversation we had on Saturday, given this particular point, so that everybody's kind of on board, even though it, reads a little bit more strict. But thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Trustee Rosenberg.
Steve, with regard to the garden plots, the parking for that will be ideally on Ladd Street then, parallel parking in front of it?
That's
Or
correct.
North of it, I guess. Will there be access from the street to is there going to be some kind of, I see a pathway there, but I guess I'm not sure where.
There's a
It seems
pathway
like it's
connection.
almost-
Excuse me. There's a pathway connection that leads to an accessible entrance. The garden plots themselves along the east side will be accessible to people with disabilities. So there will be a curb cut that will allow that access at that point.
So along that area that, on the north, where there's, I guess, shrubbery there, will there be space in between those to access the?
Yes.
Okay. And then, just to follow up on what Trustee Farwell was saying, I suppose there is the possibility, depending on the demand for the facilities there, that you could find that you might need to program more than what you expected? Could that be a possibility? As far as from the standpoint of needing additional parking, or, if there's people demanding more scheduled things or events, or where you might have to actually schedule them closer than what you originally anticipated, is that possible?
Are you speaking of the athletic
Field
use?
activities
Yeah.
and community center and project activities and things like that?
That's possible. It's probably not likely. Just so that you know that wherever we have a combined soccer field that might exist in the outfield area of baseball fields, we don't program soccer and baseball at the same time. So if it's soccer season, baseball isn't playing, and vice versa. We also have a fairly good inventory of field space that we can use and rotate around. So we don't anticipate that we would have to double book those fields and put one game right on top of the other. So we can spread out the schedule a little bit so that the people arriving for the next game don't get there until most of the people from the preceding game have left.
But I guess there could be a possibility where there's baseball going on to the north and soccer to the very south? No?
No,
Not at
we,
the same
no,
time?
no, we stay away from scheduling soccer games at baseball fields when they're scheduled for baseball. So if it's a baseball field, there's nothing scheduled during that season for soccer. If it's scheduled for soccer, then there's no baseball scheduled, or softball.
Thank you.
Any other questions? I'm testing my memory here. We've made reference to Pioneer, which was considered a sort of central to south park. This is perhaps centered to north. I think there was a question at the Plan Commission in regards to needs at some of the other, of the 5 parks total. Well, yeah, Recreation, Frontier, Camelot, Pioneer, Heritage. Did I get them all?
Bingo.
Okay. For the residents who are served by some of the other parks who are looking for upgrades, this is more than an upgrade. This is kind of a redo like the Pioneer for the north side. Is there any plans for upgrading at Camelot or Heritage?
Allow me to answer that with 2 answers. One being the park area, the outdoor park area itself, and the other being the building facility. When we finish the park area here at Frontier, that will kind of be the 5th of 5. We've been waiting to do Frontier until we knew we were able to secure a grant. So many of the improvements that you'll see at Frontier, pathway, basketball courts, tennis courts, playground, all of those have been already replaced very recently in the other 4 neighborhood community center parks. So we're bringing Frontier up to where all the other parks are. You are correct that when Pioneer, the building, was also part of that development. That was kind of our south central. We consider Frontier to be north central. You'll be seeing us again shortly, as we did receive a grant from IDNR to rebuild and renovate Camelot Park Community Center, and we expect that project to begin shortly. So that'll be our new building on the north.
So,
and as funding becomes available, we'll do the best we can to get to all 5 of those parks.
So the building at Frontier is pretty much remaining the same?
The building will stay the same.
Okay. I was just curious of the comment I read in the Plan Commission meeting,
Right.
so.
And John just reminded me, not only did we do Frontier, but we did all 5 of all 4 of the other, we didn't do Pioneer, during this master planning process. So we do have all of the master plans in place for the other 4 parks.
Well, it's a welcome. I think the diagram that's up, the one to the right, is showing a lot of green. And I think open space is very welcomed. We take pride in our community and our planning with a lot of single-family homes who have backyards, but it's always really nice to be able to go to wide open space. And the parks are spread out quite well, and somebody was asking me, Mr. Dixon, how we got so many parks, and I was reflecting on our land dedication ordinance, that when home builders came through, rather than give money, they gave land, and that's why our parks and schools are rather strategically placed. And so kudos to those that came before us to plan open space within a little bit far for walking distance, but not bad. So very good plan.
Thank you.
If there's anyone in the audience that wishes to ask a question, where are your neighbors? Seeing none, do we have a motion and a second?
No.
We have no motion or second. Trustee Breyer.
I am very pleased to move that we accept the recommendation of the Plan Commission and approve this project.
Second.
Motion by trustee Breyer. Who was the second? I don't know. Let's
Either
flip a
one of
coin. Let's give it to trustee Rosenberg. He lives on, well, you all live on the north side. No wonder you're voting for this one. Okay. So motion by trustee Breyer, seconded by trustee Rosenberg. Any other comments? Roll call, please.
Trustee Breyer.
Yes.
Trustee Rosenberg.
Yes.
Trustee Farwell.
Yes.
Trustee Glasgow.
Yes.
Trustee Hayes.
Yes.
Trustee Sidor.
Yes.
Trustee Blackwood.
Yes.
President Mulder.
Yes. Motion passes. Thank you to the commissioners I see in the audience. The Park District, you do a fantastic job. They always say they love Arlington Heights because of the library, the schools, the parks. We're hoping someday they'll say the village. So you're all part of the village, so thank you very much.
With these extra packets if you want them.
Our trustees don't like to carry them back home. Legal.
Thanks, Ira.
Mr. Siegel or Mr. Dixon, do we have anything for legal? I see nothing on the agenda. Our appointments we've made already. I'd like to move and take a few moments for our immediate audience, but also for our home audience to publicize some upcoming events. And I'm very, very pleased to announce something that has been held most every year, and Trustee Scaletta's not here, but he started a Mardi Gras celebration for Metropolis Theater, and I would encourage our residents to consider participating. It's very soon. It's February 13th this year. The 3rd?
23rd.
It says 13th on my schedule here, on my announcement. Is that correct?
February 23rd.
It's the 23rd?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, the Mardi Gras is on the 23rd, so we have a typo here. At 7 to 11, it's at Mr. D's Sports Bar, held at, which is at Arlington Park Racetrack. It's always kind of a fun thing, and they have local residents running for, just like they do in New Orleans, the king and the queen. It's really fun, and all the profits will go to support the Metropolis Theater. Another event that Metropolis is doing for all those athletes out there, or wannabe athletes, it's a walk-run. So you can walk or run. April 6th, again, this coming spring, and the race will begin at the corner of Highland and Campbell. I think that's the same place as we have the start of the Santa Run. I think that's about the same place. And that is, there's going to be a 5K and a 10K run, or a 1-mile family walk. So bring the strollers and everybody participate. All of these benefits and fundraisers will be benefiting the theatrical and arts education programs that are a significant part of Metropolis Theater. So we want to certainly wish them well and support our own groups within our community, and Metropolis is certainly one of them. The schools, the music school and art school there is very successful, and the park people are all left, but they're very wonderful to help publicize those classes. Thought there were one more thing. Yes, and finally, my advertisement for special events that are very important. Two very important to this village is this Thursday. It's the 26th, I believe, prayer breakfast to be celebrated, and I believe it's at European Crystal Banquets on Algonquin. It's this Thursday, February 7th. I believe it begins at 7.
It's at the Doubletree.
It's at the Doubletree. Okay. I know the next event is at the Crystal Hearts of Gold. So Doubletree Hotel. right at the corner of Algonquin and Arlington Heights Road. Well, not quite at the corner, but close there. So the prayer breakfast at 7:15 on the 7th. That's this Thursday, just 3 days from now. And this coming Saturday, February 9th, Hearts of Gold. And if you've never been to a Hearts of Gold and you want to know a little bit about the village of Arlington Heights, it is the Academy Awards of our village. It's recognizing residents that have been nominated for several categories. And being that not everybody will be able to make that, I would hope that I was going to find, here it is. I simply want to acknowledge those winners here tonight that will be recognized this Saturday at the banquet hall. The Mentor Heart of Gold, the Reverend William Savasky of St. James. Best Neighbor Heart of Gold, Mr. Don Green. Educator Heart of Gold, Lynn Scalaro. Young at Heart, Heart of Gold, Carl Lobb, very active with Boy Scouts. Heroic Heart of Gold, Rick Abbott, and you're going to have to come to find out how he was a hero. I'm not going to tell you. Young Champion Heart of Gold, Emma Hogaboom. Volunteer Heart of Gold, it's a couple, Ron and Diane Crawford. Community Spirit Heart of Gold, Lori Harp, and you probably recognize that name with chairing the 125 event. And the Business Leadership Heart Award, the Elite Athletic Development CrossFit Arlington Heights. So we know that they're physically fit, and they are the Business Leadership Heart of Gold winner. And finally, the Pam Stocking Heart of Gold Award. This one is very special and near and dear to the people sitting at this dais, and that is going to a former trustee and the former village nurse, Helen Jensen. So it's not too late to sign up. Just call our village hall, ask for Nancy Clues, and she will tell you the information you need to know. We would welcome everyone to attend, to meet and hear the stories of these great residents and people who have accomplished and made our community a better place to live. So any other announcements? A motion for adjournment. Mr.
So moved to adjourn closed session, I believe.
We have a closed session. We need
Closed
some
session.
numbers to be read. Mr. Dixon.
Thank you. Per 5 ILCS 120/2C11, litigation when an action is pending against the village.
So
We
moved.
don't expect to report out on that this evening.
Motion by Trustee Hayes for moving into closed session per the letters read by our manager, Mr. Dixon, seconded by Trustee Rosenberg. Roll call.
Trustee Hayes.
Yes.
Trustee Rosenberg.
Yes.
Trustee Sidor.
Yes.
Trustee Blackwood.
Yes.
Trustee Breyer.
Yes.
Trustee Farwell.
Yes.
Trustee Glasgow.
Yes.
President Mulder.
Motion carries. We now adjourn. As Mr. Dixon indicated, we will not be resuming our board meeting after the conclusion of the executive session. There will be no report out for purposes of those of the press who are with us. So we are now adjourned. Thank you, everyone, for joining us.